Sham Sharadava Nalalida Loka Tranaya Karuna Gana Ganatam Sham Sharadava Nalalida Loka Tranaya Karuna Gana Gana Prapta Sakalina Gurana Vasya Vande Guru Shri Charana Vrindam Prapta Sakalina Gurana Vasya Vande Guru Shri Charana Vande Guru Shri Charana Vrindam Vande Guru Shri Charana Vrindam Vande Guru Shri Charana Vrindam Vande Guru Shri Charana Mahaprabhu ki Tana Nritya Gita Vaditra Madhyam Manasura Sena Romanchakam Pasru Taranga Bhajo Vande Guru Shri Charana Vrindam Romanchakam Pasru Taranga Bhajo Vande Guru Shri Vigrahara Dana Nityanana Shringaratanama Niramajanado Jokta Sabhaktam Sa Niyunjatopi Vande Guru Shri Charana Vrindam Chaturvidha Shri Bhagavat Prasada Satana Triptam Hari Bhakta Sangha Chaturvidha Shri Kridvaiva Tripti Bhajata Shadeva Vande Guru Shri Charana Vrindam Shiradikama Davayora Para Madhura Leela Guna Rupa Namna Shiradika Pratikshana Swa Danalalupasya Vande Guru Shri Charana Vrindam Nikunja Yuno Rati Keli Siddhai Jajali Bhir Jukti अपेक्षणीय निकुंजयो तत्रातिदक्ष अतिबलवस्य वन्दे गुरुश्री चरणरविन्दम् साक्षाद्धरितेन समस्तशास्त्रैर्वृतास्तथाव व्यतैव सद्भिः किन्तु प्रवर्ज प्रिय एव तस्य वन्दे गुरुश्री चरणरविन्दम् यस्य प्रसादात् भगवत्प्रसादो यस्य प्रसादं न गति कुतोऽपि यस्य दयां स्तुवां तस्य यस्त्रीं सन्ध्यां वन्दे गुरुश्री चरणरविन्दम् वन्दे गुरुश्री चरणरविन्दम् वन्दे गुरुश्री चरणरविन्दम् नमो ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने नमः नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यादेश तारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौरा भक्तवृंद श्री चैतन्य जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौरा भक्तवृंद Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, oh, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, oh, Hare Rama, oh, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hariyaraya Nama Krishna Jadavaya Nama Jadavaye Madhavaye Kesavaye Namaha. Gopal Govinda Ram Shrimad Sudan Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohana Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Sita Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavata Gita Shri Rupa Sanatan Vataraguna Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasaraguna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Nitai Gora Haribo, 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 Nitai Gora Haribo, 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 Nitai Gora Brahmanande Haribo. Jai Vishwapara Paramsa Prabhajakacharya Ashtottara Sarasi Shrimari Divan Grace of Hocharavina Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Pratishta Bhiviti Samstapakachara Vaishnav Shramani Patita Pavana Srila Prabhupada Ji Maharaj Ki Jai. Shri Gaurya Guru Varga Patita Udhara Ki Jai. Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhattara Gunata Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Gunasat Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ji Ki Jai. Jayananta Kutu Vaishnava Vrindi Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Se Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrindi Ki Jai. Jai Param Dayal Se Nityananda Prabhu Ki Jai. Jai Prema Nama Sankirtaneka Janaka Prema Purushottama Shri Sachinandana Shriman Gauranga Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Gaur Hari Mavrana Avatar Ki Jai. Golokera Pramadhan Harinam Sankirtan Jaiga Ki Jai. Yoga Dharma Hare Krishna Mahamantra Ki Jai. Brihat Midanga Transcendental Book Distribution Seva Ki Jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopina Radha Kund Syama Kund Giriraj Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Brajabhim Vrindavan Mathur Dham Ki Jai. The Lordship Shri Radha Nilamadhava Ki Jai. Shri Mayapur Navadvipika Chakra Dham Ki Jai. Param Karuna Shri Gaur Nitai Ki Jai. Shri Purushottama Ketra Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Shri Shri Jagannatha Swami Baladev Prabhu Smaspadra Devi Sudarshan Chakra Bhagavan Ki Jai. Bhakti Sarva Vigna Vinashana Karna Shingare Bhagavan Ki Jai. Ram Lakshman Bhakta Hanuman Ji Ki Jai. Jaganga Mai Jamuna Mai Ki Jai. Tulasi Maharani Vrindi Devi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Shri Mati Radharani Ki Jai. Shamaveta Bhakta Vrindi Ki Jai. Nitai Gaurari Pramanandi Haribo. All glories to somebody bodies. All glories to somebody bodies. All glories to somebody bodies. All glories, all glories, all glories to Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Jai. Namaste Narasingaya. Namaste Narasingaya. Pralada Lada Daine Hiranyakasipur Bhaksa Silatangkana kalaye Ito nisingo parato nisingo Jato jato jamitato nisingo Bair nisingo Rudaye nisingo Narasimha Madim Saranam Prapade Tabakara Kamala Bare Naka Adabhuta Singha Dalita Hiranyakasipu Tanabringa Kesavadruta Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadi Sare Jai Jagadi Sare Jai Jagadi Sare Bhavakara Kamala Bare Naka Adabhuta Singha Dalita Hiranyakasipu Tanabringa Kesavadruta Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadishare Jai Jagadishare Jai Jagadishare Jayo Nishingade Jayo Nishingade Nishingade Jayo Nishingade Jayo Narare Jaya Narare Narare Jaya Narare Jayo Lakshmi Narasingha Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha Jaya Prahlad Mara Prahlad Mara Prahlad Mara Jaya Prahlad Mara Nitai Gora Haribo 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 Nitai Gora Haribo जय श्री श्री भक्ति पता सर्विघ्नाशना कर्ण सिंह रे भगवान की जय भक्त श्रेष्ठ प्रहलाद महाराज की जय निताय गौरारी प्रेम नंदे हरि हरि बोल श्री वृंदाई तुलसी देवाय प्रिय केशव सत्य विष्णु भक्ति प्रारे देवी सत्ववत्ताय नमो नमः वृंदायै तुलसी देवाय प्रियै केशव सत्य विष्णु भक्ति प्रारे देवी सत्ववत्ताय नमो नमः वृंदाय तुलसी देवाय प्रियाय केशव सत्य विष्णु भक्ति प्रदे देवी सतवताय नमो नमः। श्रीमती तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी की जय।
नमो नमः तुलसी कृष्णा प्रेयसी नमो नमः
तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः।
नमो नमः तुलसी कृष्णा प्रेयसी नमो नमः
तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः।
राधा कृष्णा सेवा पावो अभिलाषी
राधा कृष्ण सेवा पावो अभिलाषी।
राधा कृष्णा सेवा पावो अभिलाषी
राधा कृष्ण सेवा पावो अभिलाषी।
जितो मारा शरण लो तारा वंच पूरन हो।
ये तुम्हारा शरण लो तारा वंच पूर्ण
कृपा कोरी कोरो तारे वृंदावन वासी।
तुम्हें कृपा करे करतारे वृंदावन वासी।
मोराए अभिलाष विलास कुंज दियो वास।
मोराए विलास कुंज दिया
नयने हरिबो सदा जुगल रूपरासी।
अमिनायने रे सदा जुगल रूपरासी।
ए निवेदन धारो सखीर अनुगत कोरो।
निवेदन धार सकीरायनो गतकार।
सेवा अधिकारा दिए कोरो निज दासी।
सेवाया दे कर दिए करने जदासी।
दीना कृष्ण दासे कोई जीना मोरा होए।
Na Krishna Das Kor Eye Namora
Shri Radha Govinda Preme Sada Jina Bhasi
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 Yani Kani Cha Papani Brahma Hatyadikani Cha Tani Tani Pranashanti Pradakshina Pade Pade
Jani Kani Sapapani Brahma Hatyari Kanisa Tani Tani Pranasante Pradachina Pade Pade
Yani Kani Cha Papani Brahma Hatyadikani Cha Tani Tani Pranashanti Pradikshina Pade Pade
Jani Kani Sapapani Brahma Hatyari Kanisa Tani Tani Pranasante Pradachina Pade Pade
Yani Kani Cha Papani Brahma Hatyadikani Cha Tani Tani Pranashanti Pradikshina Pade Pade
Jani Kani Sapapani Brahma Hatyari Kanisa Tani Tani Pranasante Pradachina Pade Pade
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Jaya Tulsi Maharani Jaya Tulsi Maharani Jaya Tulsi Maharani Jaya Tulsi Maharani
Jaya Tulsi Maharani Jaya Tulsi Maharani Jaya Tulsi Maharani Jaya Tulsi Maharani
Jaya Vrinda Devi Jaya Vrinda Devi Jaya Vrinda Devi Jaya Vrinda Devi
Jaya Vrinda Devi Jaya Vrinda Devi Jaya Vrinda Devi Jaya Vrinda Devi
Nityai Gara Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nityai Gara Hari Bol Nityai Gara Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nityai Gara Hari Bol Srimati Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki jai.
Jai Shri Vrindai Tulasi Devai Priyai Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Shatavatai Namo Namaha Vrindayai Tulasi Devai Priyai Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Satavataye Namo Namaha. Vrindaye Tulasi Devai Priyaye Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Satavataye Namo Namaha. Shrimati Tulasi Maharani Vrinda Devi Ki Jai. Oh Tulasi, beloved Krishna, I bow before you again and again. My desire to obtain the service of Shri Radha and Krishna. Whoever takes shelter of you as wishes fulfilled, bestow your mercy upon him, you make him resident of Vrindavan. My desire is that you also give me a residence in pleasure groves of Sri Vrindavan Dham. Thus within my vision, I will always behold you, the pastimes of Radha. I beg you to make me a follower of our damsels of Raj. Please give me the privilege of personal service and make me your own maid servant. Is very fallen and lowly self of Krishna praise. May I always sing in love Shri Shri Radha and Govind, Srimati Tulasi Maharani Vrinda Devi Ki Jai. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Shri Krishna Ki Jai. Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Nam Hari Bhava Nija Sarva Shakti Adarshanad Marmatam Karotuvam Yatata Vidadatulam Pato Matprana Tatusa Evana Paraha Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Jai Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Shri Krishna Ki. Glory to the Shri Krishna Sankirtana, which cleanses the heart with the dust accumulated for years, and extinguishes the fire of conditional life or repeated birth. This Sankirtana is the prime benediction for humanity at large, for it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we're always anxious. O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus your hundreds of millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names you have invested all your transcendental energies. There is nothing hard and fast rules for chanting these names. Oh my Lord, out of kindness, you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names. But I'm so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. When we chant the holy name of the Lord in humble state of mind, think oneself the Lord and strong in spirit. One should be more tolerant than a tree. Reward all sense of false prestige. Should be ready to offer our respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your cause that devotional service, birth after birth. O Son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitors. Yet somehow or other I'm falling in this ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. O my Lord, O will my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name. O will my voice choke up, and will the hairs of my body stand on the end of the recitation of your name. O Govinda, feeling your separation, I am constant and want me to be like 12 years or more.
Tears are flowing from my eyes are turning to rain.
And I feel all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and sure remains so.
So even if he handles roughly by his grace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me, he is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord, unconditionally. Sri Chaitanya Siksastakam ki. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutali Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namaste. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paskati Vasatani.
The art and offenses in not chanting the holy name of the Lord should be avoided. They are as follows: 1.
To blaspheme the devotees who have dedicated their lives to propagating the holy names of the Lord.
2.
To consider the names of demigods like Lord Shiva or Lord Rama to be independent of the names of Lord Vishnu.
3.
To disobey the orders of the spiritual master.
4.
To blaspheme the Vedic literature or literature in pursuance of the Vedic version.
5.
To consider the glories of chanting Hare Krishna as imagination.
6.
To give some interpretation on the holy name of the Lord.
7.
To commit sinful activities on the strength of chanting the holy name of the Lord.
8.
To consider the chanting of Hare Krishna as one of the auspicious ritualistic activities which are offered in the Vedas as fruit of activities of karma kanda.
9.
To instruct the faithless person about the glories of the holy name.
And 10.
To not have complete faith in the chanting of holy names, and to maintain material attachments even after understanding so many instructions in this matter. It is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be a Vaishnava must carefully guard against these 10 offenses in order to quickly achieve the desired success. Krishna Prema. Now let us go for our most humble obeisance unto all Vaishnavas, devoted to the Lord. They are just like desire trees that can fulfill the desires of everyone, and they are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Vanchakalpa tarabhyascha kripasindarbhyavcha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha vaishnava thakur ki jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutali Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Devi Guruvani Bhachari Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paskatya Desatani Jai. Shrimad Bhagavatam Grantha Raja Ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Janmadyasya Yato Niviyat Itaratascha Teso Vigyaswarat.
Janmadyasyatam Vayaditaratascha Teso Vigyaswarat.
Tene Brahma Hridaya Adikavaye Muyanti Yatsurayaha.
Tene Brahma Hridaya Adikavaye Muyanti Yatsurayaha.
Tejo Varimadam Yata Vinimayo Yatra Trisargo Misha.
Tejo Varimdan Yata Vinimayo Yatra.
Damna Svena Sada Nirastakuhakam Satyam Param Dhimahi.
Damna Svena Sada Nirastakuhakam Satyam Param Dhimahi.
O my Lord, Shri Krishna, son of Vasudeva.
O my Lord, Shri Krishna, son of Vasudeva.
O all-pervading personality God.
O all-pervading personality.
I offer my respectful obeisances unto you.
Offer my respectful obeisances.
I meditate upon Lord Shri Krishna because he is the absolute truth.
I meditate upon Lord Shri Krishna because he is the absolute
and the primeval cause of all causes.
And the primeval cause of all
Of the
causes.
creation, sustenance, and destruction of the manifested universe.
Of the creation, sustenance, and destruction of manifested.
He is directly and indirectly conscious of all
He is
manifestations.
directly and indirectly conscious of all
And he is
manifestations.
independent because there is no other cause beyond
And he
him.
is independent because there is no other cause
It
beyond
is
him.
he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji,
It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge into the heart
the
of man,
original
the
living
original
being.
living being.
By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion.
By him, even the blessed sages and demigods are
As
blessed
one is
with you.
bewildered by the illusory representations
As one is bewildered by illusory
of water
representations
seen on fire or land seen on water.
of water, sin, the fire, land, sin, the
Only
water.
because of him do the material universes,
It's only because of him do the material universe.
temporarily manifested by the reactions of the three modes of nature,
Temporary manifested by the reaction of the three modes of
appear factual although they are unreal.
appear factual.
I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Shri Krishna,
I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Shri
who is
Krishna,
eternally existent in the transcendental abode,
which is eternal existence in the
which is
transcendental,
forever free from the illusory representations in the material world.
which is forever free from illusory representation.
I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth.
I meditate upon him for
Dharma
his the
pujita
absolute-
kaitavocha,
Dharma pujita
paramo nirmatsaranam satam,
Paramo nirmashlanam
vedyam vastavam atra vastu,
Vedyam vastavam
shivadam tapatrayon mulanam.
Shivadam tapu
Shrimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite,
Shrimad Bhagavate
Kim Vapare Ishvaraha, Sadyo Hridaya Vurudyate Itra, Krite Bihi Sususubhistakshana, completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated.
rejecting all religious activities which are
This Bhagavata Purana propounds the highest truth,
This Bhagavad Purana propounds a
which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart.
which is understandable by those devotees of fully pure in
The
heart.
highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of
The
all.
highest truth, the reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare
Such
of all.
truth uproots the threefold
Such a
miseries.
truth uproots the threefold miseries.
This beautiful Bhagavatam compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in its maturity
This beautiful Bhagavatam compiled by the great Savior
is sufficient in itself for God realization.
sufficient itself for God.
What is the need of any other
What is the need
scripture?
of the other scripture?
As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of
As soon
Bhagavatam,
as one attentive and submissive hears
by
message
this culture of knowledge,
by this culture of knowledge,
the Supreme Lord is established within his heart.
the Supreme Lord is established with this.
Nigama kalpataror galitam phalam,
Nigama kalpataror galitam.
sukhamukad amrita dravya samhitam, pibatara bhagavatam rasam alayam, muhur aho raska bhuvibhavakaha. O expert and thoughtful men, relish Srimad
O
Bhagavatam,
expert and thoughtful man, relish
the mature fruit of the desired true Vedic literatures.
the mature fruit desired through Vedic
It emanated from the lips of C. Sukadeva Goswami.
It emanated from the lips of Sri Shukadeva.
Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful.
Therefore, this fruit has
Although
become
its
more
nectarian juice was already relishable
tasty.
for
Although
all,
its nectarian juice was all relishable,
including liberated souls.
including
Chinvatam Swakata Krishna,
Shrivantam Swagata Krishna,
Punya Shravana Kirtana,
Punya Shravana Kirtan,
Hiryantak Stohi Bhadrani, Vidunoti Suhitsatam. To hear about Krishna from Vedic literatures,
To hear about Krishna from
or to hear from him directly through the Bhagavad Gita,
or to hear from him directly
is itself righteous
is
activity.
self-righteous
And for one who hears about Krishna,
one who hears
Lord Krishna, who is dwelling in
about
everyone's
Krishna
heart,
within everyone's
acts
heart,
as a best wishing friend
acts as the best
and
wishing
purifies the devotee who constantly engages in hearing of him.
and purifies the devotee who constantly engages in
Nasta presu bhadresu
Nastapaishwa
nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati utamasloke bhaktir bhavati naistake.
Bhakti Bhavati Nashti.
In this way, a devotee naturally develops his dormant transcendental
In
knowledge.
this way, the devotee naturally develops dormant
As
transcendence.
he hears more about Krishna from the
As
Bhagavatam
he hears more about Krishna
and from the devotees, he becomes fixed in the devotional service of the Lord.
becomes fixed in devotional service.
Tadarajastamo bhava
Tadarajastamo
kamaloba dayasche
Kamalobhadayasche
chetetaranabhidam
Chetaikaranabhidam
stitvam sattve prasidati.
Sabhe Prasidati.
By development of devotional
By
service,
development of
one
devotional
becomes
service,
freed from the modes of passion
one
and
becomes
ignorance,
free from the modes of
and
passion.
thus material lust and avarice
And
are
thus
diminished.
lust and avarice are diminished.
Evam prasana manaso
Evam prasanna
bhagavad
manas,
bhakti yogataha
Bhagavad
bhagavad
Bhakti
tattva vijnanam
Tattva
mukta sangasya jayate.
Mukta Sangha
When these
Sajayate.
impurities are wiped
When
away,
these impurities
the
are
candidate
wiped
remains steady in his position
away,
of
the
pure
candidate remains
goodness,
steady in his position of
becomes
goodness,
enlivened by devotional service,
becomes enlivened by
and
this,
understands the science of God
and
perfectly.
understands the science of
Vidyate
God.
hridaya grantis,
Vidyate hridaya
chidyante sarvasamsaya,
Chidyante
shiyante
sarvasamsaya,
chasya karmani,
Chidyante sacha
drista
karmani,
eva atmanishvare.
drusta eva atmani.
Thus, bhakti yoga severs the hard knot of material
Thus,
affection
Bhakti Yoga serves the heart of material
and enables
affection
one to come at once to the stage of a samsayam
and
samagram,
enables one to come into one to the stage of
understanding of the supreme absolute truth personality of Godhead.
understanding the supreme absolute truth.
Therefore, only by hearing from Krishna
Therefore, only by
or
hearing
from his devotee in Krishna consciousness
or from his words in Krishna
can one understand the science of Krishna.
can one understand the sense.
Shri Guru Vastika prayers ki jai. The spiritual master is receiving benediction from the ocean of mercy, just as a cloud pours water on the forest fire to extinguish it.
The spiritual master is receiving blessing from the ocean message, just as a cloud pours water and falls fire.
So the spiritual master delivers the materially afflicted world by extinguishing the blazing fire of material
So the
existence.
spiritual master delivers the material afflicted world by extinguishing the blazing fire. of
I
material
offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet, as such a spiritual master is an ocean of auspicious qualities.
I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master with an ocean of
Chanting the holy names, dancing in ecstasy, singing and playing musical instruments.
chanting holy name, dancing, singing, and playing musical instruments.
The spiritual master is always gladdened by the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya
The
Mahaprabhu,
spiritual master is gladdened by the Sankirtan movement of the Lord
because he relishes the mellows of pure devotion within his mind.
because relishing the mellows of pure devotion.
Sometimes his hair stands on end.
Sometimes the head stands.
He feels quivering in his body,
because quivering
and
in
tears
his
flow
heart,
from his eyes
and
like
tears flow
waves.
from his eyes like
I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master.
I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such
The
a
spiritual master is always engaged in the temple worship of Shri Radha and Krishna.
spiritual master is always engaged in temple worship.
He also engages his disciples in
He also
such
engages
worship.
disciples in such
They
worship.
dress the deities in beautiful clothes and
They
ornaments,
dress the deities in beautiful clothes,
clean their temple,
clean the temple,
and perform other similar worship of the
and
Lord.
perform other
I offer
similar
my
worship to the Lord.
I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual
I
master.
offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet.
The spiritual master is always offering Krishna 4 kinds of delicious
The
food.
master is always offering Krishna four kind of delicious
Analyzes that which is licked, chewed, drunk, and sucked.
and that which is licked, chewed, drunk, and
When the
sucked.
spiritual master sees that devotees are satisfied by eating Bhagavad
The
Prasada,
spiritual master sees that the body is satisfied by eating Bhagavad.
he is satisfied.
He is
I
satisfied.
offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual
I
master.
offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such
The spiritual master is always eager to hear and chant about the unlimited conjugal pastimes of Radhika and Madhava,
The spiritual master is always eager to hear and chant about the unlimited conjugal pastime of Radhika
and their qualities, names, and
and the
forms.
qualities, names,
The spiritual master aspires to relish these at every moment.
The spiritual master aspires to relish
I
these
offer my
things.
respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual
I
master.
offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of
The
such
spiritual master is very dear because he is expert at assisting the gopis who at different times make different tasteful arrangements for the perfection of Radha and Krishna's conjugal loving affairs within the groves of Vrindavana.
The spiritual master is very dear because he's expert in assisting the gopis when they different times make different tasteful arrangement for the perfection of Radha and Krishna
I offer my most
conjugal
humble
loving
obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a
affairs. I offer my
spiritual master.
humble obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual
The
master.
spiritual master is to be honored as much as the Supreme Lord because he is the most confidential servitor of the Lord.
The spiritual master is to be honored as much as the Supreme Lord because the most confidential servitor.
This is acknowledged in all revealed scriptures and followed by all
This is
authorities.
acknowledging all revealed scriptures and followed by all authorities.
Therefore, I should always, therefore, I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master as a bona fide representative of Sri Hare Krishna.
Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisance to the Lord of such a spirit who is the bona fide representative of Sri Hare Krishna.
By the mercy of the spiritual master, one receives the benediction of
By
Krishna.
the mercy of the spiritual master, one receives.
Without the grace of the spiritual master, one cannot make any
Without the grace
advancement.
of the spiritual master, one cannot.
Therefore, I should always remember and praise the spiritual master.
Therefore, I should always remember and praise.
At least 3 times a day, I should offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master.
At least 3 times a day, I should offer my respectful obeisance unto the Lord of feet of my spiritual master.
Shri Brahma Samiti ki jai, Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachitananda Vigraha Anadiradi Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam.
Ishvara Parama Krishna Sakshit Ananda Vigraha Anadiradi Govinda Sarvakarana
Chintamani Prakara Satma Sukalpa Riksha.
Chintamani Prakarasanna Sukalpa
Laksha Vite Susrabhira Vipaliantam.
Laksha Videsha Surabhira Vipayanta
Lakshmi Sahasra Satasam Brahma Sevyamana.
Lakshmi Sahasra Sadasim Brahma Sevama
Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami.
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham
Venam Kavanta Araminda Dalaitaksham.
Venu Kwanantam Aravinda Dalayata
Varhavatam Samasitam Buddha Sundarangam.
Varamvatam Samasitam Buddha Sundaram
Kandarpa Koti Kamaniya Visesha Sobham.
Datpakoti Kamaniya Vishesha
Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami.
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham
Alola Chandra Kalasat Vanavalyamasi.
Alola Chandakala Sarvana Malyavansi
Ratnam Gadam Pranayakeli Kalavilasam.
Pranangadam Pranaya Keli Kala
Shaman Tribanga Lalitam Niyata Prakasam.
Yamam Tribhanga Lalitam Yata
Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami.
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham
Angani Yasya Sakalendriya Vrittimanti.
Angani Yasa Sakalendriya Vritti
Pasyanti Panti Kalyanti Chiram Jaganti.
Pasyanti Panti Kalayanti Chiram
Ananda Chinmaya Sadujvala Vigrahasya.
Ananda Chinmaya Satu Jvala
Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami.
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham
Advaitam Achyutam Anadim Anantarupam
Adaitam Achyutam Anandam
Adyam Purana Purusham Navayovanam Cha
Adyam Purana Purusham Navajobanam
Vedesu Durlabam Adurlabam Atma Bhakto
Vedeshu Durlabam Adurlabam
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami
Govindamadi Purusham
Pantastu Koti Satavatsala Sampagamyo
Pantastu Koti Satavasara
Vayo Ratapi Manasomuni Pungamanam
Vayo Ratapi Manasomani Pungam
Sopyasti Yat Prapadasim Yavichinti Tatve
Sopyasti Yaprapada Sincha Vichincha
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami
Adi Purusham
Ekopya Sora Chaitam Jagadanda Kotim
Eko Pyasoi Raisitum Jagananta
Yaschaktirasti Jagadanda Chayayadanta
Chakti Rasti Jagananda Chaya
Andantarasta Paramanu Chayantarastam
Andantaram Staparamucha Yanta
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami
Govindam Adi Purusham
Yad Bhava Bhavita Diyomanajasthataiva
Tad Bhava Bhavita Dhyomani
Samprapya Rupa Mahima Sanayana Bhusaha
Prabhya Rupa Mahima Sanayana Bhusa
Suktaryameva Nigama Pratitaistuvanti
Sute Meva Nikama Putsatest
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami
Adi Purusham
Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Patibhavitabhis
Ananda Chima Rasa Pratibhad
Tabirya Eva Nijarupa Tayakalabi
Tabiya Eva Nijarupa Tayaka
Goloka Eva Nivasata Kilatma Bhuto
Goloka Eva Nivasatya Kilat
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami
Govindam Adi Purusham
Premanjanacharita Bhakti Vilochanena
Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochana
Santaksadeva Hideyesu Vilokayanti
Nahasadeva Vridayeshu Viloya
Yam Shama Sundaram Achintya Gunaswarupam
Yamsyama Sundaram Achinta
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami
Govindam Adi Purusham
Ramadi Murti Sukalani Amenatistan
Ramadi Murti Sukalani Yamena
Nanavatar Makarod Bhuvanesu Kintu
Nana Vatara Makarol Bhuvaneshu
Krishna Swayam Samabhavat Parama Ha Pramamyo
Krishna Swayam Samabhavat Paramam
Pumamyo Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami
Adi Purusham
Yasya Prabha Prabhuto Jagananda Koti
Yasya Prabha Prabhuvato Jagananda
Koti Svasesu Asudadi Vibhuti Binam
Kotya Swashesha Vasudadi
Tad Brahma Niskalam Anantam Ashesa Bhutam
Tat Brahmanis Kalamanantam Ashesha
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami
Govindam Adi Purusham
Maya Hiyasya Jagadanda Satani Sute
Maya Yasya Jagananda Satani
Tragunya Tad Vishaya Veda Vitayamana
Degunata Vishaya Veda Vidaya
Sadbhavalambi Parasatvam Visuddha Sattvam
Sadvavalambi Parasatvam Visuddha
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham
Ananda Chinmaya Rasatmataya Manasu
Ananda Chinmaya Satmantaya
Ya
Manasu
Praninam Pratifalam Smaratam Upetya
Ya Praninam Pratispalam Smaram
Lilayatena Bhuvanani Jayaya Jasram
Lila Yitena Bhuvanini
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham
Golokanamni Nijadamni Tale Chatasya
Golokanamni Nijadamni Tale Sattva
Devi Mahesa Haridama Sute Sutesu
Sri Mahesha Haridama Suteshte
Te Te Prabhava Nichaya Vitascha Yena
Tete Prabhava Nichaya Vihitas
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami
Govindam Adi Purusham
Shristi Stati Pralaya Sadhava Sakti Reka
Shristi Stiti Pralaya Sadhana Shakti
Jayeva Yasya Bhuvanani Vivarti Durga
Jaye Vayasya Bhuvanani Vibhakti Durga
Ichanurupam Apiyasya Chichestatesa
Icha Nurupama Piyasya Chatista
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham
Shiram Yata Dadi Vikara Visesa Yoga
Kiram Yata Dari Vikara Vishesha Yoga
Sanjayate Nahitata Pritagasti Hetoho
Sanjayate Naitata Pitakastu
Yasambutam Apitata Samapaiti Karyat
Yasam Bhutama Pitata Samupata
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham
Diparchadeva Hita Santanam Abhyapetya
Deepacha Eva Indasangiranam Upetya
Dipayate Vivita Hetu Samanu Dharma
Deepayatena Vivitayetu Samana Dharma
Yastadrigeva Hicha Vishnu Taya Vibhati
Yastadik Eva Yacha Visnutaya Vibhati
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham
Yakarna Narna Vajale Vajatisma Yoga
Yakara Nanna Vale Jal Vajatisma
Nidram Ananta Jagadanda Saroma Kupaha
Nidram Ananta Jagananda Saroma
Adhara Shaktim Avalambya Param Swamurtim.
Adhara Shakti Avalambi Param Swam.
Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami.
Govinda Adi Purusham Tamaham.
Yasyaika Nisvasitakala Matavalambya.
Yasheka Nishwasita Kalamata.
Jivanti Loma Vilaja Jagadandanataha.
Jivanti Loma Vilaja Jagannath.
Vishnu Mahansahi Yasya Kala Vishesho.
Vishnu Mahansahi Yasya Kala.
Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami.
Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham.
Vasvanyatasma Sakalesu Nijesu Tejaha.
Vasvan Yatasman Sakaleshu Nijesi.
Swiyam Kiyat Prakatiyat Apitadvadacha.
Shriyam Kriya Prakataya Pitatata.
Brahmaya Esa Jagadanda Vidanakarta.
Brahmaya Esha Jagananda Vidana.
Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami.
Adi Purusham Tamaham.
Yat Pada Palava Yugam Vinidaya Kumbha.
Yatpada Palava Yugam Vidaya.
Dvandve Pranama Samayesu Kanadi Rajaha.
Ve Pranama Mayeda Gadarati.
Vignan Vihantam Alamasya Jagatrayasya.
Vigna Vihantu Malamas.
Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Samayesu.
Purusham Tamaham.
Agnir Mahiga Ganamambu Marudisascha.
Agni Maheka Gana Ambu Maruti Sat.
Kalas Tatatma Manasitti Jagatrayani.
Kalas Tatanma Manasasti Jagataya.
Yasmad Bhavanti Vishanti Yamcha.
Yasmad Bhavanti Vibhavanti Vishanti Yam.
Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami.
Adi Purusham Tamaham.
Yaschak Suresa Savita Sakala Grahanam.
Chachu Esa Savita Sakala.
Raja Samasta Suramurti Rasesa Tejaha.
Raja Samasa Suramuti Mashesha.
Yasya Gyaya Brahmati Sambrita Kala Chakro.
Yasha Gaya Brahmati Samrita Kala.
Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami.
Adi Purusham Tamaham.
Dharmo Tapapa Nichaya Sutayastapamsi.
Dharmo Tapapani Jayastu Dayastu.
Brahmadi Kita Patagava Dayascha Jivaha.
Madi Kita Patakava Bayascha.
Yadata Matra Vibhava Prakata Prabhava.
Yada Tamata Vibhava Prakata.
Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami.
Madi Purusham Tamaham.
Yastrindra Gopa Matavendra Mahoswakarma.
Yatindra Gopa Matavendra House.
Bandhana Rupa Kala. Bandhana Rupa Phala Bhajana Matanoti. Phala Bhajana. Karmani Nirdhati Kintucha Bhakti Bhajam.
Mani Nitahati Kintu Chabha.
Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami.
Madi Purusham Tamaham.
Yam Krodha Kama Sahaja Pranayadi Vitti.
Yam Kruda Kama Sahaja Pranayadi.
Vatsadya Moha Guru Gaurava Sevya Babahai.
Vasaya Moha Guru Gaura Visevya Bhava.
Sanchintya Tasya Sadrisim Tanamapurete.
Sanchintya Tasha Satimatta Nupuri.
Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami.
Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham.
Shriya Kanta Kanta Parama Purusha Kalpataravo.
Shriya Kanta Kanta Parama Purusha Kalpataravu.
Kruma Bhunis Chintamani Ganamayi Toyam Amritam.
Ruma Bhumi Chintamani Gunakmayi Toyam Amrita.
Kata Ganam Natyam Gamanam Apivamsi Priyasaki.
Tata Ganam Natyam Gananam Apivam Sipiya.
Chid Anandam Jyoti Param Apitad Asvadyam Apicha.
Chinanandam Jyoti Param Apita Advadam Apicha.
Sayatra Shiradi Vihishravati Surabi Vyascha Sumahan.
Sayatra Kirti Srati Surabhibhyacha Sumaha.
Nime Sardakyuva Rajati Nahiyatra Samaya.
Nimer Dakiyova Prajati Nahi Trapati Samaya.
Bhaje Svita Dvipam Tamaham Iha Golakam Itiyam.
Bhageshweta Rupam Tamaham Iya Gulukamiti.
Vidantaste Santakshati Virachara Katipaye.
Vedanta Te Santa Kiti Viralam Chaya Katipa.
Shisopanishadi Ki Jai Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamiva Vasishyate.
Om Purna Ada Purna Idam Purna Purnam Udachati. Purnasya Purnam Adaya Purnam Vibhavi.
Ishavaishyamidam Sarvam Jatkinja Jagatyam Jagatina Taktena Bunjitaha Magritaha Kashasviddanam.
Ishavashamidam Sarvam Yakinchi Jagatvam Jagat. Tena Tyakina Bunjita Naginam Kashasvidanam.
Purvani Vahakarmani Jajiva Chakchatam Samaha Evam Tvayi Nanyatetusti Nakarma Lipyate Nare.
Kurvan Irena Karmani Jijivisu Chantam Samaha Evam Trayena Nyete Tusti Nakarma Dipiti.
Asurya Namate Loka Andena Tamasavritaha Tamste Pritya Bhigichanti Yeke Chatva Hanojanaha.
Asurya Namate Loka Adena Tamasavitaha Tamaste Pivya Divya Kanchati
Anajadika manaso javyo nena devam apravam pravam asata davatunyana tete testa tasmina pumata visva dadati. Tade jatitane jati tadure tadvantike tadantarasya sarvasya tadu sarvasya sarvayataha. Yastu sarvani bhutani atmane vanupasyati sarvabhuteshu chatmanam tatova vijugupsate.
Yastu sarvani bhutani atmani vanupapsati sarvabhuteshu chatmanam tatuna vijugupsate.
Yasmin sarvani bhutani atmeva bhudvijanataha tatrako mahakaha soka ekadvam anupasyataha.
Yasmin sarvani bhutani atmava bhudvijatana tatrata umotaka shoka advam anupapsataha.
Sa prayagaschukamakaya amavinam asnaviram sudam apapavidam kavir manisi paribhu swayambhu yatatat yutoratan vyadatas jasvatipyaha samabhyaha.
Satapyaragachukam akamavutam asnavitam sudam apapavidam kavir manishi paribhu sarmuribhu yatatantu ritam veditam sababhya samabhya.
Itatat yatoritam vyadadas jasvatipyaha samabhyaha andham tamaha pravisanti ye vidyam upasyate tato bhuyayavate tamo yayu vidyam rataha.
Ananam tama pravishanti ye vidyam upasate tato bhuya ityavate tamo yahuye vidyayam rataha.
Anyad evahur vidyaya anyadahur vidyaya iti sushrumadiranam yinascha vichachakshire.
Anyadevahu vidyaya nyaahur vidyaya iti
Diran
susrutiranam
yenastad shichakshire vidyam cha yasyastad vedabhayam saha avidyaya militam tirtva vidyayam ritamasnate.
vidyam cha yas tarvido bhayam saha avidyam mrityum tidva vidyamritam asune.
Andam tamaha pravisanti ye sambhutim upasyate tato bhuyayavate tamo yayu sambutam rataha.
Ananam tama pravishanti ye sambutim upasate tato bhuya evate tamo yau sambutam rataha.
Anyadevahur sambhavat anyadahur sambhavat iti sushrumadiranam yenastad vichachakshire.
Anyadevahum sambhavat anyahavu sambhavat iti sushumadiranam yenatas vichakshire.
Sambhutim cha vinasam cha yastad vedabhayam saha vinasena militam tirtva sambhutam ritamasnate.
Sambhutim cha vinasam cha yasta vinoda bhayam saha vinasena mrityum tritva sambhumyam
Hiran mayana
ritam
patrena satyasya pitam mukam tatpam pusam apavrinu sadyadharmaya distraye.
Ilmayena patena satyaspitam mukam nutvam pusham apritinum satya dharmaya.
Pusane kasyayamasriya prajapatya vyuharasmin samahatejo yate rupam kalyanatamam tate pusyami yo savaso purushaha sohamasmi.
Pusam ekashaniyama surya prajapatya vinumarasim samulatejo nate purvam kalyanatamam tate pushami yusa asu purushayo.
Vayuranilamam ritam ate dambasman sarinam om kratos kritam smara kratos kritam smara.
Vayuranilamam ritam padena vasmantam sharinam om kratusmala kritam smaram kratusmara kritam smaram.
Agne naya supatare svan visvani deva vayunani vidvan yehudajma chuhurana mino bhuyastam te nama uktim vidima om tatsat.
Agnenaya sutta rayasman visandeva yunani divyam yodadya asmayu hanam enom bhuyistam te nama kutum vidinama.
We're going to go over again this verse, Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 6, verse numbers 43 and 45. And we'll skip the Sanskrit. Translation. I myself, Brahma, Lord Shiva, Lord Vishnu, great generators of living beings like Daksha and Prajapati, yourselves, Narada and Kumaras, heavenly demigods like Indra and Chandra, the leaders of the Bhura Loka planets, the leaders of the earthly planets, the leaders of the lower planets, the leaders of the Gandharva planets, the leaders of the Vidyadhara planets, the leaders of the Charanaloka planets, the leaders of the Yakshas, Rakshas, and Uragas, the great sages, the great demons, the great atheists, and the great spacemen, as well as the dead bodies, evil spirits, satans, jinn, kusmandas, great aquatics, great beasts, and great birds, etc. In other words, anything and everything which is exceptionally possessed of power, opulence, mental and perceptual dexterity, strength, forgiveness, beauty, modesty, opulence, and breeding, and whether in the form or formless, may appear to be the specific truth and the form of the Lord, but actually they are not so. They are only a fragment of the transcendental potency of the Lord. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Purport. Those in the list given above, beginning from the name Brahmaji and the first living creature within the universe, down to Lord Shiva, Lord Vishnu, Narada, and other powerful demigods, men, supermen, sages, rishis, and other lower creatures of extraordinary strength and opulence, including the dead bodies, satans, evil spirits, jinn, aquatics, birds, and beasts, may appear to be the Supreme Lord, but factually, none of them is the Supreme Lord. Every one of them possesses only a fragment of the great potencies of the Supreme Lord. The less intelligent man is surprised to see the wonderful actions of material phenomena, as the aborigines are fearful of a great thunderbolt, a great and gigantic banyan tree, or a great lofty mountain in the jungle. For such undeveloped human beings, merely the slight display of the Lord's potency is captivating. A still more advanced person is captivated by the powers of the demigods and goddesses. Therefore, those who are simply astonished by the powers of anything in the creation of the Lord without any factual information of the Lord himself are known as Shaktas, or worshippers of the great powers. The modern scientist is also captivated by the wonderful actions and reactions of natural phenomena, and therefore is also a Shakta. These lower grade persons gradually rise to become Sauriyas, worshippers of the sun god, or Ganapatyas, worshippers of the mass of people, as Janata Janardana or Daridra Dharayana, etc., in the form of Ganapati, and then rise to the platform of worshipping Lord Shiva in search of ever-existing soul, and then to the stage of worshipping Lord Vishnu, the super soul, etc., without any information of Govinda, Lord Krishna, who is the original Lord Vishnu. In other words, some are worshippers of race, nationality, birds, beasts, evil spirits, satans, etc. The general worship of Sunny Deva, the Lord of distressful conditions, and Sitala Devi, the goddess of smallpox, is also common to the mass of people, and there are many foolish men who worship the mass of people or the poor class of people. So different persons, societies, and communities, etc., worship some of the different persons, societies, and communities, etc. Worship some of the potent manifestations of the Lord, wrongly accepting the powerful object as God. But in this verse, it is advised by Brahmaji that none of them is the Supreme Lord. They are only borrowed plumes from the original Almighty Lord Sri Krishna. When the Lord advises in Bhagavad Gita to worship him alone, it is to be understood that worshiping Lord Krishna includes worshiping all that is mentioned, because he, Lord Krishna, includes everyone. When the Lord is described as formless in the Vedic literatures, it is to be understood that all these forms mentioned above, within the experience of universal knowledge, are different exhibitions of the Lord's transcendental potencies only, and none of them factually represents the transcendental form of the Lord. But when the Lord actually descends on the earth or anywhere within the universe, the less intelligent class of men also mistake him to be one of them, and thus they imagine the transcendence to be formless or impersonal. Factually, the Lord is not formless, nor does he belong to any of the multi-forms experienced within the universal forms. One should try to know the truth about the Lord by following the instruction of Brahmaji. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. I myself, Brahma, Lord Shiva, Lord Vishnu, great generators of living beings like Daksha and Prajapati, yourselves, Narada and the Kumaras, heavenly demigods like Indra and Chandra, the leaders of the Loka planets, the leaders of the earthly planets, the leaders of the lower planets, the leaders of the Gandharva planets, the leaders of the Vidyadhara planets, and the leaders of the Charanaloka planets, the leaders of the Yakshas, Rakshas, and Uragas, the great sages, the great demons, the great atheists, and the great spacemen, as well as the dead bodies, evil spirits, Satans, jinn, kusmandas, great aquatics, great beasts, and great birds, etc. In other words, anything and everything which is exceptionally possessed of power, opulence, mental and perceptual dexterity, strength, forgiveness, beauty, modesty, opulence, and breeding, whether in form or formless, may appear to be the specific truth and the form of the Lord, but actually they are not so. They are only a fragment of the transcendental potency of the Lord. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So this is extremely important verse. We've gone over it once before, but there's some things that have to be said about this, some more things that have to be said about this. The main question here is, why is it that there are so many religions in this world, and so many different sects, even within the religions? There's so many different sects in Christianity, in Hinduism. There's a huge number of different sects, and in Islam also there are different sects, and even in Jainism and in Sikhism. There are all these splinter groups, and they're called sects, S-E-C-T-S. And why are there so many? Well, this is explained in the 17th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. And it's very important to know this, because then a lot more information is given in this verse and purport by Prabhupada to understand this. So putting these two things together, Bhagavad Gita and this verse, you get a much more comprehensive understanding of why there are so many different religions and sects in the world. And then you can understand more clearly the gradual way to bring people from the mode of ignorance, the mode of passion, to the mode of goodness, and then eventually to transcendental goodness, and help them see through the let's say, imperfect understanding of the supreme absolute truth that they have. And so, in the 17th chapter, it says, Yashastra vidim utshrijya yajante shodayan vitaha tesam nista tudnaka Krishna sattvam aho rajastama. You notice it's mentioning the name of Krishna in this verse. And it says, Arjuna inquired, O Krishna, what is the situation of those who do not follow the principles of scriptures, but worship according to their own imagination? Are they in goodness, in passion, or in ignorance? And this is a great question by Arjuna. Very great question. And he touches all the points of this dilemma of splinter groups and sects in religions, and then why there are different religions also. Well, in the purport, Prabhupada explains. He says, in the 4th chapter, 39th verse, it is said that a person faithful to a particular type of worship gradually becomes elevated to the stage of knowledge and attains the highest perfectional stage of peace and prosperity. So let's take a look at that verse, 439. If you want to learn Bhagavad Gita, you have to carefully read Prabhupada's purports. So, verse 39 says, Ajnascha sadhanasya samsayatma vinasyati nayam lokosti na paro na sukham na samsayatmana. Nasukam samsayatmanaha. So it says, but ignorant and faithless persons who doubt the revealed scriptures do not attain God consciousness. They fall down. For the doubting soul, there is happiness neither in this world nor in the next. So Prabhupada says about this verse, he says, in the 4th chapter, 39th verse, it is said that a person faithful to a particular type of worship gradually becomes elevated to the stage of knowledge and attains the highest perfectional stage of peace and prosperity. Now, it sounds as if there's a disconnect here. Let's see what Prabhupada says in the purport to... wait a minute. I'm sorry, I read the wrong verse. 439 is Shadaval Labate Gyanam Tat Param Samyatendriya Gyanam Ladva Param Santim Achiren Adigachati. Okay, this is the right verse. 439 says, a faithful man who is dedicated to transcendental knowledge and who subdues his senses is eligible to achieve such knowledge, and having achieved it, he quickly attains the supreme spiritual peace. Now, the purport of that verse says, such knowledge in Krishna consciousness can be achieved by a faithful person who believes firmly in Krishna. One is called a faithful man who thinks that simply by acting in Krishna consciousness he can attain the highest perfection. This faith is attained by the discharge of devotional service and by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, which cleanses one's heart of all material dirt. Over and above this, one should control the senses. A person who is faithful to Krishna and who controls the senses can easily attain perfection in the knowledge of Krishna consciousness without delay. Okay, so now we can understand why Prabhupada says in the 4th chapter, 39th verse, it is said that a person faithful to a particular type of worship gradually becomes elevated to the stage of knowledge and attains the highest perfectional stage of peace and prosperity. Okay, now then it says, in the 16th chapter, it is concluded that one who does not follow the principles laid down in the scriptures is called an asura, a demon. And one who follows the scriptural injunctions faithfully is called deva, or demigod. Now, if one is with faith, follows some rules which are not mentioned in the scriptural injunctions, what is his position? Okay, so now Prabhupada goes from explaining what is the best position, that is having faith in Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead and in the instructions of Krishna as given by bona fide gurus in Krishna consciousness, then they eventually will attain perfection in this life. What happens, however, in the case that someone has says it has some faith, but it says in the 16th chapter is concluded that one who does not follow the principles laid down in the scriptures is called an asura, a demon, and one who follows the scriptural injunctions faithfully is called a deva or demigod. Now, if one with faith follows some rules which are not mentioned in the scriptural injunctions, what is his position? So this is very common. People become misled by some so-called prophet or so-called incarnation of God, and he explains principles that they should follow that are not mentioned by Krishna. So it looks like they have faith, it looks like they're following, and they're chanting and listening, but actually they're following a false guru and who has self-interest, and they're not exactly following the injunctions in the scriptures. Now what happens to them? This doubt of Arjuna is to be cleared by Krishna. And those who create some sort of God by selecting a human being and placing their faith in him, worshipping in goodness, passion, and ignorance, do such persons attain the perfectional stage of life? Very good question. Is it possible for them to be situated in real knowledge and elevate themselves to the highest perfectional stage? Again, nice question. Do those who do not follow the rules and regulations of the scriptures, but who have faith in something and worship gods and demigods and men, attain success in their efforts? Very good question. Arjuna is putting these questions to Krishna. So one time the devotee asked Prabhupada a question. He said, Prabhupada, there's this Sai Baba, and his devotees chant mantras, they chant some Krishna bhajans also, and other bhajans, and they have satsang regularly, and they talk about, prasad and all these things. What's going to happen to them? Prabhupada said, well, Krishna says, Yanti Deva Ratan Devan Pitrin Yanti Pritrivata Bhutani Yanti Bhuteja. And it says that one who worships the demigods go to the planets of demigods. And one who worships the ghosts go to the ghosts. And one who worships me, Krishna says, comes to me. Yanti Madhya Jina Pimam. What happens? So those who worship the demigods will take birth amongst the demigods. Those who worship the ancestors go to the ancestors. Those who worship ghosts and spirits will take birth amongst such beings. And those who worship me will live with me. So, if you're worshiping Krishna and following the acharyas and bona fide gurus, and are sincere and following, you go back to Godhead. And if you're worshiping this Baba or that Baba, then you go wherever that Baba is. So that was his answer. It's a very good answer. It's true. So there's a story like this in the 6th canto, Srimad Bhagavatam, of a group of people who were worshiping a Baba. And he told them, he ordered them to build a boat out of stone. So they got all the stones and they built a boat. And then when they launched the boat, everyone was in the boat with the guru, and obviously it sank and they all died. And then they went to Narak, to hell. And all the students or all the disciples of the guru, when they saw Yamaraj, they started complaining. He said, well, why are we here? We don't belong here. Yamaraj said, no, you belong here. He said, how is that? We're faithful to our guru. We're always following everything he said. He said, yes, you're right. But you chose the wrong guru. He's not actually a guru. He's Guru. And because he had merits coming to hell, and you followed him, you're in hell now. They said, but that's not fair. We were sincere. He said, well, you might feel as if you were sincere, but you were attracted to a cheater because you have a cheating propensity, and therefore you're in hell now. Do you understand? So the fact that someone is sincere doesn't mean anything. If they choose a demon or an imposter as a guru, even if they follow all the rules and regulations, they go wherever the guru goes. And he goes to hell because he's misrepresenting Krishna. See? So, and this is the point. One time I was very confused because even though I was initiated by Prabhupada and doing Sankirtan, and this is in Paris, I was seeing so many other groups, and they were sort of imitating us, Sometimes they would go on Sankirtan also, and be chanting, Jai Gurudev, 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 but their Gurudev was some phony guru, right? And they would have, satsang and all these things. So I got a little confused about it, and in my mind I was thinking, is there a difference between what they're doing and what we're doing? So I thought about this for a long time. I think I was thinking about it for a year and trying to figure out, is there a difference between us? Well, obviously there are differences of practice, but the thing I realized that every one of those groups was different in this way. Prabhupada named his movement the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. And those other people, they always named their movement after themselves. Or they were known by their guru's name and not some name. So, one group was, the followers of Ma Amritamai. Another group was, followers of Satchitananda Swami. Or another group was the followers of this Babaji or that Babaji, right? And Prabhupada, no one said this is the A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami movement. No one said that. They said this is the Hare Krishna. This is ISKCON, International Society for Krishna Consciousness. They didn't say this is Prabhupada. The other groups, they said, this is Muktananda. This is Ramana Maharshi. They didn't have, the name of their group was the name of the guru, or the movement, or their movement was known by the guru's name. And then I realized this is the difference, because Prabhupada is a pure devotee of Krishna. Therefore, he's pointing everyone to Krishna. He's not pointing to himself. And therefore, the movement was known by Krishna's name, not Prabhupada's name. See? So, this was a realization that I had. And it's a fact, because Prabhupada did not come to glorify himself. He came to glorify Krishna. That was the difference, major difference that I saw. And there were also many other differences, because we're following what Krishna has instructed to follow. And these other people were following whatever the guru instructs. Just like the so-called Asat Guru, he said, when he was asked, well, should we read the Bhagavad Gita? He said, why should you read an old book like that? That was written 5,000 years ago. It's not pertinent to society today. Just listen to what I say. I'm here in the flesh. I'm speaking to you, and I am the guru. So you just listen to what I say. So you see, the other big difference is all these gurus, they deny the authority of Bhagavad Gita. Or if they don't deny it, they give their own interpretation to it. You see? So these are some major differences between these other groups and what Prabhupada did. He established the International Society for Krishna in order to glorify Krishna, which is the purpose of life. So in this 17th chapter, it says, Krishna begins to answer Arjuna's questions. He asked him 4 questions in the first verse. And he says, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, according to the modes of nature acquired by the embodied soul, one's faith can be of 3 kinds, in goodness, in passion, or in ignorance. Now hear about this. So now this explains why there are so many religions, because the founders or the followers of the religion are in different modes of material nature. And because of that, they come up with different ideas about who is God, what is God, how to worship that God, etc. And Prabhupada says, those who know the rules and regulations of the scriptures, but out of laziness or indolence, give up following these rules and regulations, are governed by the modes of material nature. Now this is a description of disciples in any movement, including Krishna consciousness. What is their problem? They know the rules and regulations. It's not that they don't have knowledge. They have knowledge, but out of laziness, they give up following these rules and regulations. They become governed by the modes of material nature, even though they know what the truth is, even though they might even be chanting Hare Krishna. And then it says, according to their previous activities in the mode of goodness, passion, or ignorance, they acquire a nature which is of a specific quality. So as soon as they become lazy in following, like not waking up early, not chanting the rounds every day, not exactly following all the rules of Krishna consciousness, due to laziness, then they become controlled again by the modes of material nature, whereas a devotee is actually transcendental to the modes if they're strictly following. But if they begin to slip and slide down the slippery slope of laziness and inattentiveness, then inattentive to detail, then they become influenced by the modes again. The association of living entity with the different modes of nature has been going on perpetually, since the living entity is in contact with the material nature. He acquires different types of mentality according to his association with the material modes. You see, this is a very, very important point. We develop different types of mentality according to the association with the modes of nature. But this nature can be changed if one associates with a bona fide spiritual master and abides by his rules and the scriptures. Gradually, one can change his position from ignorance to goodness and from passion to goodness. The conclusion is that blind faith in a particular mode of nature cannot help a person become elevated to the perfectional stage. One has to consider things carefully with intelligence in the association of a bona fide spiritual master. Thus, one can change his position to a higher mode of nature. Okay? So, unless one has the association of genuine devotees, they can develop influenced by the modes of, they can be influenced again by the modes of material nature due to bad association, due to laziness, and then develop false ideas about what is religion. So in the next verse, Krishna explains to Arjuna, he says, O Arjuna, according to one's existence under the various modes of nature, one evolves a particular kind of faith. The living being is said to be of a particular faith according to the modes he has acquired. So we see this even in Krishna consciousness. We have people who become Ritviks, we have people who are just start their own movement. I know initiated disciples of Gopal Krishna Maharaj and other gurus who have started their own movements, who've separated from ISKCON, started their own movements and imitate a lot of things in ISKCON, but don't accept the authority, have rejected their guru, or don't accept the authority of the GBC, and just make their own movements. There are a whole bunch of people like that. There are the disciples of Prabhupada have done the same thing. And then, they follow some of the rules or all the rules, but they don't accept the authority of the GBC, or they don't accept the authority of their guru, and they just become guru themselves. They pronounce themselves to be gurus. And oftentimes, they get into trouble, or they have problems with their own movement. So it says, in this verse, the Supreme Personality of Godhead describes different kinds of worshippers according to their external activities. According to scriptural injunction, only the Supreme Personality of Godhead is worshipable. But those who are not very conversant with or faithful to the scriptural injunctions worship different objects according to their specific situations in the modes of material nature. Those who are situated in goodness generally worship the demigods, and the demigods include Brahma, Shiva, and others such as Indra, Chandra, and the sun god. There are various demigods. Those in the goodness worship a particular demigod for a particular purpose. Similarly, those who are in the mode of passion worship the demons. We recall that during the Second World War, a man in Calcutta worshipped Hitler because thanks to the war, he had amassed a large amount of wealth by dealing in the black market. Similarly, those in the modes of passion and ignorance generally select a powerful man to be God. They think that anyone can be worshipped as God and that the same results will be obtained. Wow, this is a perfect description of what's going on in India. You have so many man gods with their following. Asharam Baba, this one, that Baba, this Baba, that Baba. And they accept them as incarnation of God. Now it is clearly described here that those who are in the mode of passion worship and create such gods. They create such gods. And those who are in the mode of ignorance and darkness worship dead spirits. Sometimes people worship at the tomb of some dead man. Well, if you go to Oroville, south of Chennai. I went there once, and you'll see that they're worshiping the tomb of Aurobindo and his so-called Jewish wife, the mother. So they do everything to they have this big tomb where they're buried, and you go in and the people are circumambulating it. They're putting their head where the feet of the guru, where Aurobindo should be, and they're praying, and they're doing arti to the tomb, to the dead bodies, and they're doing everything that you would do to a deity, right? And they're making garlands and putting it on the tomb and all these things, right? And basically worshiping two ghosts. And this is the amazing thing about India. I mean, India is just the most amazing place in the world. Every deviation that you can think of is in India. It starts in India and then it spreads all over the world. And there's all kinds of crazy things going on, and it's just amazing. It's just amazing. So similarly, in remote villages in India, there are worshippers of ghosts. We have seen that in India, the lower class people sometimes go to the forest, and if they have knowledge that a ghost lives in a tree, they worship that tree and offer sacrifices. Have you ever seen anything like that? Yeah. Yeah. These different kinds of worship are not actually God worship. God worship is for persons who are transcendentally situated in pure goodness. In the Srimad Bhagavatam 4.3.23, it is said, Sattvam Visudham Vasudeva Sabditam. When a man is situated in pure goodness, he worships Vasudeva, meaning Krishna, and usually in the form of Vishnu. The person is thus the purport is that those who are completely purified of material modes of nature and who are transcendently situated can worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The impersonalists are supposed to be situated in the mode of goodness, and they worship 5 kinds of demigods. They worship the impersonal Vishnu form, impersonal Vishnu form, in the material world, which is known as philosophized Vishnu. In other words, the Vishnu deity they have in their temple is not really Vishnu. It's the philosophized Vishnu. They've given some false interpretation to this Vishnu. Vishnu is the expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but the impersonalists, because they do not ultimately believe in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, imagine that the Vishnu form is just another aspect of the impersonal Brahman. Similarly, they imagine that Lord Brahma is the impersonal form in the material mode of passion. Thus, they sometimes describe 5 kinds of gods that are worshipable, but because they think that the actual truth is impersonal Brahman, they dispose of all worshipable objects at the ultimate end. So this is called the Visarjan. They throw away the deity. So this whole idea of like the Ganapati Visarjan, it's all made up. There's nothing factual about it. It's not scriptural at all. It's a thing made up by Tilak. What was his name? Huh? Yeah, Lokman Tilak. He made it up just to unite the Hindus against the Muslims, right? And he thought, let me make this worship thing up so we'll politically unite the Hindus, because the Hindus are, hodgepodge. They vote for anybody, and they all break up into splinter groups. But the Muslims, they listen to their imams, or at least a lot of them do. And if the imam says vote for Congress, they all vote for Congress. They don't know anything about Congress. It's only because the imam said so, right? But the Hindus, they're too smart, so they all start arguing and making their own movements, and they're just divided like anything, So anyway, you see, people start their own religions, for different reasons. Could be a political reason, like Gandhi. He wrote a whole purport to 6 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita saying it's all about nonviolence. See? And Prabhupada said, why did they want to use Bhagavad Gita to put forward their own philosophy? Why don't they just say, this is my own Bhagavad Gita. It has nothing to do with Krishna's Bhagavad Gita. No. They want to piggyback on Krishna because people believe that Krishna is God, and then they give the false interpretation of the Bhagavad Gita, and the whole thing is a mess. So the purport is that those who are completely purified of the material modes of nature and who are transcendentally situated can worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The impersonalists are supposed to be situated in the modes of goodness, and they worship 5 kinds of demigods. They worship the impersonal Vishnu form in the material world, which is known as philosophized Vishnu. Vishnu is the expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but the impersonalists, because they do not ultimately believe in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, imagine that the Vishnu form is just another aspect of the impersonal Brahman. Now, did you know this? Did you know this, that you go to a Hindu temple and you see Surya, and you see Shiva, and you see Mata, and you see Ganapati, and you see also Vishnu, right? Or sometimes they put Radha and Krishna there. Now, is it actually Vishnu or Lakshmi and Vishnu, or is it actually Radha and Krishna? No, it's not. They don't think that, and ultimately they think these are just idols, but we're worshiping them because, it's a stepping stone to come to the higher realization of Brahman. And as soon as you get to that higher realization, you don't need the deity worship anymore. You just do a visarjana, you just throw them in the water and forget about them. And now you're on the higher level where you don't need the crutch of a deity. So this is the nonsense that's going on. And it says, thus they sometimes describe 5 kinds of gods that are worshipable, but because they think that the actual truth is impersonal Brahman, they dispose, in other words, they throw away all worshipable objects at the ultimate end. Just like there was a person that used to come here all the time. This is way before we had this temple, this big temple. And he was a supporter, and he was like, a little bit of a fanatic. And all of a sudden he stopped coming. So after a couple of years, I saw him, and I said, Prabhuji, I said, how come you don't come? He said, oh, well, I don't have to come anymore to the temple. I said, why not? He said, well, because I found a guru who's higher than your guru. I said, really? So what does he teach? He said, well, he tells us it's not necessary to worship deities. That's only for lower class people who are very sentimental, and they need some anthropomorphic representation of God. He learned all these big words, right? That's a crutch because they're weak-minded. But when you have the higher knowledge of the light, then you don't need this anymore. So he was a completely crazy guy, right? And then he does come here every once in a while, and he hears a class. Says, oh, that was a wonderful class. I'm going to come every morning now. And then we don't see him again for another 3 years. So he's lazy. He's baffled by false philosophy, and he can't break out of his rut. So this is the sad state of affairs in this world today. Thus, they sometimes describe 5 kinds of gods that are worshipable, but because they think that the actual truth is impersonal Brahman, they dispose of all worshipable objects at the ultimate end. In conclusion, the different qualities of the material modes of nature can be purified through association with persons who are of transcendental nature. Okay, so we're going to continue this. I want to go through this whole chapter 17 because it's extremely important if you want to understand all the nonsense that's going on in this world and be able to understand this purport 2645, where Prabhupada explains things I've never seen anyone explain before so clearly, to understand why there's so much hodgepodge in India and in the whole world now. Okay, we'll stop right there. Oh, glory to Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Guru Charanava Padma Kevala Bhakati Sadma Vandamui Sahavadana Mate Chanara Prasade Bhai He Bhavatoriya Jai Krishna Prapti Oyaha Hoite Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitete Koriya Aranakoriya Mane Asa Shri Guru Charane Rati Ese Utamagati E Prasade Pure Salva Asa Chakshudan dilaje janme janme Prabhu se Chakshudan dilaje janme janme Prabhu se Divya Gyani de Pokasito Prema Bhakti Jaha Hote Avidya Vinasajate Prema Bhakti Jaha Hote Avidya Vinasajate Vede Gajanara Charito Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adana Janara Bandhu Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adana Janara Bandhu Lokena Lokera Jivana Ha ha Prabhu Kora Doya Deha More Padachaya Ha ha Prabhu Kora Doya Deha More Padachaya Ebe Asku Sakti Bhuvana Ebe Asku Sakti Bhuvana Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paskatya Desatarine Nam Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo, Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo. Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Pararajika Chastatara Satarishi Shishimadi Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Anantakoti Vaishnava Vinda Ki Jai Namacharya Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Shri Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktivedanta Ki Jai Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Samkunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Shri Mayapura Dham Ki Jai Shri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai Tulasi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Ganga Maya Ki Jai Jamuna Maya Ki Jai Samaveda Bhaktavinda Ki Jai Nitai Gaura Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shiguru and Shiguranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, Patita Bhavani Ki Jai Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nityanamani Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paskatya Destarne Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Namaste Saraswati Deve. The lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only way by which we can attain pure devotional service. I bow down to his lotus feet with great honor and reverence. By his grace one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. My only wish is to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is perfection and fulfills all desires. He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord, birth after birth. By him, individual. String of his character. Our spiritual master, the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor, and the Lord and master of devotees. O Master, be merciful unto us. Give us the shade of your lotus feet. Your fame is spread throughout all the three worlds. We take shelter of your lotus feet. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.